If you don't train your mind today, life will make you pay tomorrow. I want you to understand this urgently. The difference between those who achieve everything they set out to do and those who remain trapped in mediocrity lies in how they manage their thoughts. Your mind can be your greatest ally or your worst enemy, and if you don't learn to master it, you will continue to live at the mercy of fear, anxiety, and doubt. It's not about luck or talent. It's about mental discipline, about training your inner self with the same intensity you would train your body. Whoever controls their mind controls their emotions, their decisions, and therefore their destiny. Today, you have the opportunity to start working on it and place yourself above 99% of people. Are you ready to prove it? Before starting this video, I want you to do something powerful, something that will be your first step towards transformation. Go to the comments right now and write with all your heart this phrase: "Today I train my mind. I am Stoic." Write it not just as a comment, but as a pact with yourself. When you declare it, you will be sending a signal to your subconscious that you choose to discipline your thoughts, that you decide to master your life and take that leap that most people never dare to take. Engraving this phrase in your inner self is to start reprogramming your mind from within. It is a commitment to your growth, your strength, and your best version. So do it now. Write the phrase and let each word become the beginning of the change you were waiting for. Lesson 1. Decide to own your mind. To have a winning mentality, understand that your thoughts are the starting point of everything you are and everything you achieve. If you let fear, the opinions of others, or the need for approval dominate your life, you will always be at the mercy of what others decide for you. Instead, if you learn to observe what you think and consciously choose where to direct your attention, you begin to reclaim the true power that has always been within you. Stoicism teaches that freedom begins in the mind. Philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus dedicated their lives to showing us that nothing external can harm us as much as our own judgments. The way we interpret what happens is what strengthens or sinks us, and that is why the key is to train our thoughts to work in our favor. When you decide to think independently, you free yourself from the weight of comparison and social noise. You realize that you don't need anyone's permission to be who you want to be. Living in expectation of others' validation is like walking with invisible chains, always conditioned, always limited. A winning mentality is one that does not bend to criticism or constantly seek approval, but stands firm even when the world seems to question it. Think about how many times you have silenced an idea for fear of judgment, or followed a path that was not yours just to fit in. That is living as a prisoner. Today you can decide to let go of that fear and start expressing yourself with authenticity, even if the consequence is that some people walk away, because what remains will be genuine, and what leaves was never true. Every morning you can train your mind by asking yourself, what decisions will I make today that reflect who I truly am, and not what others expect of me? This small habit changes the direction of your days because it forces you to act from your center instead of being carried away by the environment. Write a list of moments when you acted solely out of fear. Acknowledge them, not to blame yourself, but to transform them. Think about how you would have acted if you were completely free, and make a commitment to yourself to practice that new version, even in small things, like giving your sincere opinion with respect, even if not everyone agrees. You begin to build a strong and disciplined mind. At the end of each day, reflect. Were my decisions my own, or did I simply follow the easy path to fit in? This review is vital because what is not examined is repeated. When you are aware of your mental pattern, you can break it and create a new one. Over time, you will notice that your confidence no longer depends on a like, a compliment, or applause. You will feel an inner calm that comes from knowing that your life is aligned with your values, not with the expectations of others. That freedom is what makes you unbreakable, someone who lives on their own terms. The result of this process is clear: a mentality that does not bend to criticism, that does not seek to please to feel valid, and that does not fear being alone when it means being true to oneself. That is the essence of a winning mentality, not letting the external govern your internal world. You have the opportunity today to take that step, leave behind the need for approval, and begin to live with the certainty that your worth is not defined by anyone but you. Decide to be the master of your mind, and everything else will begin to align. Lesson 2. Commit to discipline, even when you don't feel like it. A winning mentality is not built on the emotion of the moment, but on the daily consistency that is repeated even when there is no desire. Motivation is volatile. It depends on external factors and changes with the climate of your life. But discipline is a firm decision that does not ask for permission or wait for inspiration. When you learn to act without depending on your mood, you enter a higher level of personal control and begin to create a life that does not waver in the face of external ups and downs. Stoicism made this very clear. Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus reminded us that true freedom is found in mastering our mind and our actions. They taught that we should not wait for circumstances to be perfect to act, but train ourselves to respond with consistency and firmness in any situation. Their message transcends time and remains just as relevant today. Discipline is what forges character and separates those who wish from those who do. Think about your own life. How many times have you postponed what is important because you lacked motivation? That delay, although it may seem small, builds a pattern of giving up. In contrast, when you decide to advance a little each day, even with small steps, you are training your mind not to be a slave to your emotional state. That is the true power. Doing what you said you would do, even if your mood doesn't accompany you. If you want to apply this, start by establishing non-negotiable routines. Define fixed schedules for training, studying, or working on what you love. Don't ask yourself every morning if you feel like it, because the answer will often be no. Just do it. That repeated action, although it may seem minimal, shapes your character and strengthens your resilience. Break your goals into small steps. Often the lack of motivation comes from seeing the mountain as too big. But if you decide today to take just one step, write one page, train for 15 minutes, or read one chapter, you will feel the satisfaction of moving forward. That small victory accumulates, and soon what seemed impossible becomes a habit that flows almost naturally. Place visible reminders of your purpose, a note on your desk, a phrase on your mirror, an image on your cell phone, because on the days when your mind tells you don't do it, you will need to look at what reminds you why you started. Stoicism taught to bring reason to the forefront of our emotions, and these reminders are like anchors that bring you back to the path. Accept the bad days. You won't always perform at your best, and that's okay. Discipline is not about doing everything perfectly, but about not giving up. Even on your worst days, you can take a small step, and that step, although it may seem insignificant, keeps the chain of consistency intact. In the long run, the sum of these efforts is worth more than sporadic bursts of energy. The result is clear. You will build habits so solid that your progress will not depend on whether you are motivated or not. You will get up and act because it is what you have to do, because it is your commitment to yourself. That consistency is what will differentiate you from others. While many wait to feel inspired to start, you will already be moving forward. Remember that motivation ignites you, but discipline sustains you. Decide today that your life will not be guided by changing emotions, but by a firm commitment to yourself. Thus, little by little, you will become the master of your mind, and with it, the master of your destiny. Lesson 3. Feed your mind with daily inspiration. Just as your body needs food every day to stay strong and energized, your mind also needs to be nourished with thoughts, ideas, and examples that push you forward. If you don't take care of what you mentally consume, you end up leaving space for negativity, fear, and doubt. That's why every day is an opportunity to choose what you will fill your inner self with: words that strengthen you or words that limit you, ideas that expand you or ideas that stagnate you. That choice is yours, and the quality of your life depends on it. Stoicism reminds us that the mind must be constantly trained to maintain clarity, discipline, and inner strength. Marcus Aurelius wrote his reflections to keep his spirit firm. Seneca shared letters that served as a guide for life. And Epictetus taught to examine thoughts to distinguish what contributes from what only destroys. They understood that what enters the mind shapes the character, and that whoever feeds their inner self with wisdom and virtue inevitably projects strength outward. Think about the amount of information you receive throughout the day. Negative news, conversations full of complaints, distractions that add nothing to your life. All of that, although you may not notice it, becomes a poison that extinguishes your motivation and drains your energy. But when you decide to surround yourself with ideas that inspire, with readings that elevate, with examples that awaken your faith in what is possible, your mind strengthens and begins to see opportunities where before it only saw obstacles. You don't need endless hours to do it. 10 minutes a day are enough to sow seeds of greatness in your inner self. Read a passage from a book that motivates you. Listen to an audio that reminds you of your power. Watch a video that awakens your healthy ambition. The important thing is not the quantity, but the consistency. Your mind, like your body, is strengthened by daily practice, not by sporadic efforts. Make it a habit to write down one lesson you learned each day from what you consumed. Ask yourself, how can I apply this in my life right now? That action of translating inspiration into something concrete transforms an idea into a real step towards your growth. Over time, these small applications become a lifestyle where you advance every day, even if just a little, towards your best version. It is also vital to protect your mind from emotional garbage. Avoid filling your day with toxic news, constant criticism, or social media saturated with complaints. All of that only clouds your vision and steals energy that you could be using to create. Remember, what you consume shapes what you think, and what you think determines what you do. If your goal is to have a winning mentality, you must be relentless with what you let into your mind. Every night, reflect. What did what I read, listen to, or watch today contribute to me? Did it make me stronger, clearer, more focused? That daily evaluation will allow you to notice the changes in your inner self. At first, they will be small, but little by little, you will see how your mind becomes more resilient, more focused on growth, and less vulnerable to the negativity that previously dominated you. The result is profound. You will begin to see life with another perspective. Where you once saw limits, you will now see paths. Where you once felt fear, you will now feel impulse. And not because everything outside changes, but because you decided to change what feeds your inner self. That is true strength. Training your mind to focus on what it elevates and reject what it weakens. Remember, a winning mentality is not a product of chance, but of daily training. If you take care of what enters your mind with the same discipline with which you would take care of your body, you will inevitably create a stronger, clearer, and more purposeful life. Every day is a new opportunity to choose what you will sow in your inner self. Sow inspiration, and you will reap greatness. Lesson 4. Transform criticism and adversity into fuel for your motivation. Understand that every negative word, every doubt cast upon you, and every unexpected obstacle can become a spark that ignites your inner fire. It's not about denying the pain that criticism or the weight of failure produces, but about redirecting that energy to work in your favor. When you stop seeing adversity as an enemy and start seeing it as a teacher, your mentality changes and your resilience multiplies. Stoicism left us profound lessons on this topic. Marcus Aurelius reminded us in his Meditations that the offenses and judgments of others have no power over us unless we give it to them. Seneca taught that adversity is the perfect stage to train virtue and test our strength. Epictetus insisted that it is not events that harm us, but the way we interpret them. These thinkers understood that true mastery is not achieved by avoiding trials, but by using them as opportunities for inner growth. Think about your own life. How many times has a criticism paralyzed you or made you doubt yourself? Perhaps you heard words that made you feel small, or faced failures that seemed to confirm your fears. But if you look at it from another angle, each of those moments could have been an impulse to strengthen you. The difference lies in your choice, to sink into the wound or to transform that wound into the reason to rise stronger. When someone criticizes you, the first thing is to learn to separate the message from the attack. Ask yourself, is there anything useful in these words? If there is, take it as a lesson. If not, let it go without giving it space in your mind. You cannot prevent others from having opinions, but you can decide how much power you grant them over you. This practice is liberating because it turns even the most hurtful comments into a tool for self-knowledge. Failures are also a disguised gold mine. Every fall is an opportunity to write down what you learned and discover what you can improve. If a project didn't turn out as you expected, analyze what skill you need to develop or what strategy you can refine. Thus, what seemed like a setback becomes another step forward because it pushes you to be better than before. The negative energy you receive from the outside can be transformed into fuel for your effort. Every time someone doubts you, take that doubt as one more reason to prove with actions that you are capable. It's not about living obsessed with what others say, but about using that energy as a constant reminder that your commitment is stronger than their words. Let your response not be excuses or explanations, but results. And while you deal with adversity, take care of the environment you choose. Surround yourself with people who believe in you, who inspire you, and who remind you of your worth. Remove from your circle those who only criticize without contributing anything constructive. Positive support does not eliminate obstacles, but it gives you additional strength to face them without feeling alone in the process. The result of living with this mentality is powerful. You develop an emotional resilience that turns every stumble into an opportunity to grow. You stop fearing criticism and failure because you understand that none of them can destroy you if you decide to use them as lessons. Your confidence becomes firmer, your motivation deeper, and your path clearer. Remember, adversity is not a wall that blocks you, but a step that elevates you if you know how to step on it. Every criticism can be a weight that sinks you or a flame that propels you. The choice is in your hands. Make your life living proof that nothing external can defeat someone who has decided to turn every blow into strength. Lesson 5. Embrace continuous improvement as a way of life. Don't settle for what you achieved yesterday, because every day brings with it the opportunity to take one more step towards a better version of yourself. A winning mentality doesn't dwell on the past or rest on its laurels. It stays in motion, exploring new ways to grow, developing skills, correcting weaknesses, and strengthening discipline. When you make continuous improvement a habit, your life transforms into a process of constant expansion, and what once seemed impossible becomes part of your routine. Stoicism reminds us that true growth lies in self-mastery and the willingness to learn every day. Marcus Aurelius insisted on examining the mind and cultivating virtue through daily practice. Seneca taught that life should be used as a training ground where every obstacle is an opportunity to strengthen character. Epictetus showed that the essential thing is not to avoid mistakes, but to learn from them and adapt with wisdom. All three shared the same vision: never stop working on yourself, because only then can you achieve inner strength and true freedom. Ask yourself now, what areas of your life need improvement? Perhaps it's your discipline, your daily habits, your ability to concentrate, or the way you respond to adversity. Recognizing these weaknesses is not a sign of weakness, but of courage and honesty. Only those who dare to see clearly where they fail have the real opportunity to transform themselves. Make a sincere analysis of your strengths and weaknesses, and set concrete goals to work on what you know is limiting you. Continuous improvement also involves learning from others, not from a place of envy, but from humility. Observe people who have reached a level of excellence in their field. Study their methods and take what is useful for your own path. It's not about copying, but adapting. Every positive example can become a source of inspiration that fuels your own growth process. To keep this philosophy alive, set progressive goals. Don't try to transform everything at once, because haste leads to exhaustion. Divide your objectives into achievable stages and celebrate each small achievement as a step forward on the path. These moments of personal recognition are the fuel that keeps your motivation burning, even when the journey becomes difficult. Remember also to constantly review your methods. What worked for you in the past will not always be enough in the face of new challenges. Life changes, circumstances transform, and what was once useful may become obsolete. A winning mentality does not cling to old ways, but adapts and adjusts its approach to remain effective. Flexibility is a sign of intelligence and strength because it shows that you are willing to evolve rather than get trapped in the known. Continuous improvement does not seek absolute perfection because that is unattainable. What it seeks is to keep you in motion, in constant self-improvement, with the humility to accept your failures and the courage to face them. By living this way, you not only become more competitive in your profession or your projects, but you also experience inner growth that is reflected in your character, your serenity, and your ability to face life with firmness. The result of embracing this lifestyle is evident. You stay relevant, strong, and prepared for any challenge. While others are content with who they were, you continue to build who you can become. That difference will mark your path, because excellence is not achieved in a day, but in the consistency of working each day on something that brings you closer to your best version. Make continuous improvement your philosophy, and you will see how your life rises to levels that others never dare to pursue. Lesson 6. Stop blaming others. As long as you keep pointing to someone else as responsible for what's not working in your life, you'll remain trapped in the same chain of excuses that prevents you from moving forward. When you blame, you give away your power, place yourself in the victim position, and renounce the possibility of change. A winning mentality is built the moment you decide to take full responsibility for your choices, your actions, and also your reactions. You may not have chosen what happened to you, but you can decide what you will do with it. Therein lies your strength. Stoicism clearly taught that personal mastery is the basis of freedom. Marcus Aurelius insisted that no one can take our mind from us if we learn to govern it. Seneca reminded us that it is not external circumstances that determine our life, but how we face them. Epictetus pointed out that even in the harshest adversity, the power to decide how to respond always remains within us. They all agreed on the same principle: to stop blaming the external and focus on what depends on oneself is what allows one to live with strength and clarity. Think of all the times you've said, "I can't get ahead because of my parents, because of my boss, because of the circumstances." Every time you do that, you lock yourself in an invisible prison that you yourself build. Of course there were wounds, of course there were injustices, but repeating the same story over and over again changes nothing. The only thing that changes your life is the decision to take control today, with what you have and from where you are. A powerful exercise is to write down a situation in which you have blamed someone else. It could be a failure, a disappointment, or a project that didn't work out. Then ask yourself, what can I do with this now to move forward? That question opens a door that was previously closed because it takes you out of lamentation and forces you to think about solutions. Stoicism always defended this attitude, not to waste energy on what has already happened, but to use it to build what is in front of you. Taking a concrete step, no matter how small, is the most effective way to get out of the victim mentality. Maybe it's about learning a skill you've always avoided, facing a conflict you've postponed, or making a difficult decision without waiting for someone else to do it for you. When you act without blaming, you discover a sense of freedom that no excuse can give you. It's like regaining the helm of your life after having given it up for years. At night, reflect on what you did during the day. Ask yourself, did I take responsibility today, or did I go back to blaming? That constant review strengthens your character, because every time you choose to take responsibility, you reinforce within yourself the idea that you are the master of your destiny. It doesn't mean that everything will be perfect or that you'll always win, but it does mean that every step will depend on you and not on someone else's excuse. The result of this change in mentality is enormous. You stop feeling at the mercy of what happens because you understand that there is always something you can do, even in the midst of pain. You transform the past into building material, not a weight you drag. You discover that excuses fade away, and that in their place appear solutions, creativity, and strength. Remember, a winning mentality does not get trapped in blame or lamentation. A winning mentality takes life as it comes and transforms it into the ground for growth. From today, stop blaming. Take the reins, and you will see how your life begins to move in the direction you have been looking for. Lesson 7. Abandon the obsession with quick results. Life is full of empty promises of instant success, magic shortcuts, and immediate rewards that only end in frustration. When you look for the easy way, you disconnect from what really builds your strength: consistency, patience, and commitment to the process. A winning mentality doesn't focus on momentary applause or immediate rewards, but on the silent growth that accumulates day after day. That path may seem slow, but it's the only one that leads to solid and lasting results. Stoicism taught that what is valuable requires discipline and time. Marcus Aurelius reflected on the importance of patience and serenity in the face of haste. Seneca warned that we should not waste our lives chasing the ephemeral, but focus on what truly transforms us. Epictetus insisted that true progress is seen in daily actions, not in sudden achievements. All three agreed that consistency is what forges character, and that a life guided by haste becomes a fragile life. Think about how many times you have despaired for not seeing quick results. Maybe you got frustrated because you didn't see changes in your body after a week of training, or because your project didn't take off on the first try. That impatience is what makes many give up before their time. But what you don't see is that the silent effort is accumulating strength, even if the results are not yet visible. What you sow today may not bear fruit tomorrow, but with consistency, it will eventually flourish. Choose an important goal that you really want to achieve. It could be learning a skill, strengthening a relationship, or building a personal project. Don't see it as an unattainable goal. Break it down into small steps and focus only on moving forward one at a time. You don't need to cover everything at once. It's enough to commit to the daily action that brings you closer to your goal. Every day, work on that step, no matter how minimal. Dedicate a specific time and comply without excuses, even if you don't feel like it, even if the progress is not visible. The important thing is not how much is left, but that today you took one more step. That constant repetition is what transforms your life, because you train your mind not to depend on the emotion of the moment, but on the discipline that sustains you. Learn to celebrate the daily effort, not just the big achievements. Every night, write down what you learned, what you did well, what you improved, even if just a little. That record becomes a testament to your progress, a reminder that you are not stuck, but moving forward in silence. Looking back after weeks or months, you will see that the small steps built something big. Evaluate your progress every week with honesty. Don't obsess over what's missing. Focus on how you've grown. Ask yourself, am I more disciplined, more patient, stronger today than yesterday? That is the true measure of success, the inner growth that sooner or later is reflected in the external. The result of abandoning the obsession with the immediate is that you develop patience and a strong, long-term focused mentality. You become someone who doesn't give up when they don't see results, because they understand that the important thing is to stay on the path. That consistency gives you deep confidence in yourself and in your ability to achieve what you set out to do, without shortcuts or false promises. Remember, what is built quickly collapses easily, but what is built with patience remains firm. Stop seeking immediate gratification and commit to the process. That silent discipline is what forges an unstoppable mind and turns your dreams into solid realities. Lesson 8. Guard what you allow into your mind. Your mind is like a garden. Everything you let in germinates, either as thoughts that strengthen you or ideas that limit you. If you feed your mind with complaints, distractions, and criticism, what will grow will be doubts, fears, and a lack of clarity. In contrast, if you nourish it with inspiring words, edifying lessons, and uplifting examples, what will sprout will be discipline, focus, and ambition. That's why it's so important to be selective with what you consume and with the voices you give access to. Stoicism always highlighted this point. Marcus Aurelius insisted on watching over thoughts as if they were seeds, because the quality of our life sprouts from them. Seneca pointed out that contact with wise people and deep reflections strengthens the soul, while surrounding oneself with the banal only feeds weakness. Epictetus reminded us that it is not external events that shape us, but how we interpret them and what we let into our minds. These masters understood that greatness is not built with noise or distraction, but with the constant cultivation of elevated thoughts. Think about how much time you spend each day exposed to information that adds nothing. News that only seeks to alarm, social media full of complaints, or empty conversations that leave you without energy. All of that is like weeds that settle in your mental garden, and although you may not notice it at first, little by little they begin to occupy the space that should be reserved for what really drives you. A winning mentality cannot grow in contaminated soil. It needs a clean and fertile space. Start by dedicating a few minutes a day to consuming something positive. You don't need hours. 10 minutes of inspiring reading, listening to a motivating audio, or reflecting on an idea that elevates your vision is enough. That time, although it may seem small, acts as a daily watering that keeps the seed of your growth alive. It is also necessary to reduce the noise. This means spending less time with people who only bring negativity, who criticize without building, or who drain your energy with endless complaints. You don't have to reject them harshly, but you do have to establish clear boundaries, because your peace of mind is worth more than any commitment to the pessimism of others. The same goes for social media. If you notice that they steal more focus than they give you, learn to use them with discipline or eliminate them from your routine. Make a list of positive influences you want to incorporate into your life. Maybe it's an author who inspires you, a mentor you follow from a distance, or content that helps you stay focused. Write it down and decide how to use it concretely in your day. That simple act of intention transforms your mind into a space that receives quality food instead of meaningless noise. At the end of each week, evaluate how these decisions affected your energy and clarity. Ask yourself if you felt more motivated, more disciplined, or more focused. This constant review is what will allow you to see that what you consume directly influences what you produce. If you feed your mind with greatness, you will inevitably project greatness in your actions. The result of taking care of your mental garden is evident: a clear, focused, and powerful mind, capable of attracting opportunities that are aligned with your goals. You stop being a victim of the external and begin to be a conscious architect of what grows within you. That is the essence of a winning mentality: protecting your mind from the toxic and cultivating it with what strengthens your spirit. Remember, you cannot control everything that happens outside, but you can decide what you allow to enter within. Make your mind a fertile ground. Take care of it as the most valuable resource you have, and you will see how extraordinary results flourish in your life. Lesson 9. Turn the world into your library. Every day is full of opportunities to learn, but many times we pass them by because we believe that knowledge is only in a classroom or a book. The truth is that everything around you can teach you something: a conversation, an observation, a mistake, a triumph. A mind that decides to live with curiosity turns every experience into useful information for growth. If you look at life this way, you realize that you are never empty. There is always something to learn and apply. Stoicism taught that learning is not limited to theory, but is found in daily practice and constant reflection. Marcus Aurelius wrote down his thoughts so as not to forget the lessons of each day. Seneca advised using time wisely, transforming experiences into opportunities for growth. Epictetus taught to observe life as a continuous training in which everything that happens can be used to strengthen character. They understood that the world is a stage full of teachings, and that whoever approaches with humility and discipline turns every moment into wisdom. Think about something you want to improve right now. Maybe it's your communication skills, your leadership, or your discipline. You don't need to wait for a perfect course to start. Today, you can find a resource that brings you closer to that improvement. Maybe a book, a video, a talk, or even an example in someone close. The secret is to search with intention, because when you know what you want to learn, the world begins to show you the pieces you need. Dedicate some time each day to this habit. 15 minutes is enough to expose your mind to a new idea. Listen to an inspiring podcast. Read a page from a good book. Observe someone who does well what you want to learn. But don't just stick with the theory. Write down a practical idea and apply it immediately. That action transforms information into real knowledge, because only what is learned and used becomes part of you. Every week, reflect on what you have incorporated. Ask yourself, what did I learn these days, and how did it make me better? That review is vital because it allows you to recognize your progress and keep your motivation alive. Constant learning is not always noticeable instantly, but over time, you will discover that what once seemed difficult now flows naturally because you are building a new version of yourself step by step. The world also teaches you through mistakes. Every time you fail, Instead of punishing yourself, look for the hidden lesson. Ask yourself, what skill can I improve? What decision could I make differently next time? That attitude turns stumbles into part of your personal library, where even the hard moments become pages full of wisdom. Surround yourself with people who elevate your vision. Converse with those who inspire you. Listen attentively and absorb the best of each one. You don't need someone to be your formal teacher to learn from them. It's enough to observe how they act, how they face life, how they overcome their challenges. Every person can become an open book if you decide to look with the eyes of someone who seeks to learn. The result of seeing the world as your library is that you develop a habit of continuous learning that strengthens you in all areas. You become more competent, more confident, and more resilient because you know that there is no situation from which you cannot get something valuable. That mentality makes you unstoppable, always evolving, always ready to take another step beyond. Remember, the difference between someone who stagnates and someone who grows is not in the opportunities they receive, but in the attitude with which they face the world. If you choose to see life as an infinite space of teaching, you will never stop improving. Make each day a new page in your personal library, and you will see how your mentality transforms into a force that leads you to excellence. Lesson 10. Overcome shame. Shame is one of the emotions that paralyzes human beings the most because it makes us believe that the judgment of others has more weight than our own progress. We worry so much about how we will be seen that we forget the most important thing: to move forward. When you put your energy into what others think of you, you lose sight of what really matters, which is to learn, improve, and keep walking. A winning mentality understands that you are not the center of the world's attention, and that mistakes are just a natural part of the process towards excellence. Stoicism teaches us to overcome these mental traps with wisdom. Marcus Aurelius reminded us that the opinion of others is fleeting and should not govern our lives. Seneca pointed out that true value lies in acting according to reason, not in what others may think. Epictetus insisted that mistakes do not define us, but how we use them to grow. They all agreed that living as a slave to external judgment is to waste your inner freedom, and that true greatness is born when you focus on what depends on you. When you feel shame for failing, observe the mistake with objectivity. Ask yourself what happened and why it happened, without adding unnecessary judgments or blame. If you made a mistake because you didn't practice enough, acknowledge it. If you were wrong due to lack of preparation, accept it. You don't need to punish yourself because that contributes nothing. What does contribute is using that information as a starting point to correct. Corrective action is what transforms shame into progress. If you failed, practice more. If you didn't understand something, ask for help. If you didn't give your best, commit to improving next time. Every mistake contains a concrete lesson that you can apply, and when you choose to focus on the solution instead of the criticism, your mind strengthens. Stoicism makes it clear: obstacles are not there to sink you, but to train your character. A powerful exercise is to repeat out loud, "This mistake does not define me. My progress defines me." That statement breaks the link with shame and reminds you that your worth is not in an isolated moment, but in the sum of your advances. Saying it with conviction every time you stumble will help you maintain the right perspective. Evaluate your path every week. Look back and recognize how letting go of shame allowed you to move forward with more freedom. You will realize that by stopping worrying about external opinion, you manage to focus better, learn faster, and enjoy the process more. That review will show you that what used to hold you back now becomes an impulse. Over time, you will gain powerful emotional freedom. You will feel light because you will no longer be carrying the weight of others' gazes. You will discover that most people are too busy with their own lives to stop and judge yours, and that the few who criticize do not deserve your energy. What really matters is that every day you're a little better than yesterday. The result of overcoming shame is a winning mentality that is not paralyzed by the fear of error. You become someone capable of learning from every stumble without stopping. Someone who turned experience into knowledge and practice into growth. Life ceases to be a stage where you fear failing and becomes a constant training where every attempt adds up. Remember, you are not as important as you think you are in the minds of others, but you are absolutely important on your own path. Let mistakes be teachers, not chains. Overcome shame, move forward with determination, and you will see how your mentality strengthens until you become unstoppable. Lesson 11. Let go of what you cannot change. Your mind wears out every time it clings to the uncontrollable. Every time you try to fight against the inevitable, it's like pushing a wall hoping it will move. You waste energy, you get frustrated, and you end up losing your calm. A winning mentality is not born from wanting to dominate everything, but from wisely recognizing where it's worth acting and where the only possible answer is to let go. When you understand this, your life begins to transform because you stop living in tension and start walking with more lightness. Stoicism was always clear on this point. Philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus taught us that the key to inner peace is in distinguishing between what depends on us and what does not. What depends on you are your decisions, your effort, your way of reacting. What does not depend on you are the judgments of others, the weather, the passage of time, fortune, or illness. By understanding this separation, you free your mind from an immense burden and use your energy on what can really bear fruit. Ask yourself, how many times in your life have you worried about things that were never in your hands? The traffic that makes you late, the opinion of someone who judges you, a global situation that you cannot resolve. All of that becomes an invisible chain that keeps you restless, although in reality it was never under your control. It's like carrying suitcases that are not yours. Let go of that weight, and you will discover a sense of freedom you have never felt before. You can start each morning with a simple exercise. Write down 2 or 3 things you cannot control that day. It could be the weather, the attitude of someone at your work, the opinion of a family member, or even a result that depends on others. Read it out loud and say, I accept that I have no power over this. I decide not to worry. That small but conscious act already changes your mental focus. It reminds you that your strength is not in controlling the world, but in controlling yourself. After letting go of the uncontrollable, concentrate on what is in your hands, your discipline, your effort, your habits, your ability to respond calmly even if the environment is chaotic. Every action of yours, no matter how small it may seem, is fertile ground where your energy multiplies. Instead of wasting your strength fighting against what doesn't change, you start sowing in what can flourish. Accept that difficult days will come. There will be times when life will put obstacles in your path that you did not ask for or expect. On those days, remember, you don't control the storm, but you do control how you hold the helm of your ship. That is the Stoic teaching that keeps firm those who decide to live with wisdom. Let the wind blow as it will, while you continue to direct your course with serenity. At the end of the day, review how you lived those hours. Ask yourself, did I manage to let go of what does not depend on me? Or did I waste energy again on what I cannot change? That constant evaluation is what strengthens your mind, because every time you practice this habit, you train your thoughts to free themselves from invisible chains. The result of letting go of what you cannot change is clear. Less stress, more calm, and the mental clarity that allows you to focus on the essential. You stop getting lost in useless battles and start building a lighter and more purposeful life. Every day you practice it, you reinforce in yourself a freedom that no one can take away from you. the freedom to choose where you put your energy and your attention. Remember, peace does not come when everything is under control. Peace comes when you accept that it never will be, and yet you decide to live with calm. That is what makes you strong. That is what makes you the master of your life. Lesson 12. Prioritize your purpose over distractions. Every day you face hundreds of decisions. What to do with your time, with whom to share it, what to focus on. And many times those choices are contaminated with distractions that add nothing to your growth. A winning mentality is distinguished because it puts purpose as the number one priority, even if it means giving up immediate pleasures or relationships that do not add value. When you decide that your life will be guided by a clear purpose, your time stops being wasted and your energy begins to work in your favor. Stoicism reminds us that time is the most valuable resource we have. Marcus Aurelius reflected on how every lost day is a day that will never return. Seneca warned that a large part of life escapes in the trivial because we do not learn to protect our time. Epictetus insisted that we should direct our actions towards what is under our control and towards what really matters. They all agreed on the idea that whoever wastes their life on distractions renounces the greatness of living with purpose. Think about what you want to achieve. Maybe your purpose is to be a leader in your field, build a personal project, form a solid family, or grow spiritually. That purpose must be so clear that it helps you distinguish which activities strengthen it and which weaken it. Because every minute you give to empty distractions is a minute you cannot recover. Write down your main purpose and look at it every day. That clarity is your compass, and every decision you make must align with it. If your purpose is to grow in your career, ask yourself if spending hours on social media brings you closer to that goal, or if it would be better to use that time to study, practice, or create something new. Honesty with yourself is the key to starting to live intentionally. Identify at least one distraction that is consuming your time. It could be a habit you repeat without thinking, like looking at your phone for hours, going out aimlessly just to evade responsibilities, or surrounding yourself with people who don't inspire you. Recognizing it is already an important step because it allows you to consciously decide what to do with it. Replace that distraction with an action aligned with your purpose. If you used to dedicate an hour to what doesn't add to you, now use that hour to practice, learn, or advance in something that brings you closer to your goals. At first, it may feel difficult because you are breaking ingrained habits, but over time, you will discover that this discipline gives you a much deeper satisfaction than any fleeting pleasure. Every week, reflect on how this change affects your focus. Ask yourself, do I feel closer to my purpose? Have I gained clarity and motivation? That analysis will allow you to see that the real reward is not just the external progress, but the inner strength you develop by living in congruence with your goals. There will be sacrifices. That is inevitable. You may have to give up unnecessary vacations, constant outings, or certain relationships that only distract you. And yes, it may hurt to leave things behind, but remember that greatness always demands a price. The question is whether you are willing to pay it to become the person you want to be. The result of prioritizing your purpose over distractions is a focused, disciplined, and meaningful life. You will no longer feel scattered or trapped in what doesn't matter, but every action will be a firm step towards your goal. And that coherence between what you think, decide, and do is what strengthens your winning mentality. Remember, your time is limited, and you cannot afford to give it away to what doesn't build. Make your purpose the absolute priority. Protect your energy, and you will see how your progress accelerates. When you choose to live for your purpose, you don't just advance, you transform into someone unstoppable. Lesson 13. Control stress. To have a winning mentality, you must control stress. Often, what consumes you the most is not what happens outside, but what happens inside. Stress, when you don't manage it, becomes a burden that drains your vital energy, wears out your mind, and weakens your body. You live with racing thoughts, imagining scenarios that haven't happened, repeating worries over and over again, as if they were an endless tape. This not only robs you of peace, but also limits your ability to act with clarity and make firm decisions. A winning mentality understands that the mind needs calm to perform at its best. Stoicism explained this in depth. Marcus Aurelius spoke of the importance of controlling thoughts to maintain serenity in the midst of chaos. Seneca taught that we do not suffer so much from what happens to us, but from what we fear might happen. Epictetus insisted that freedom begins with control of the mind, because the external is rarely in our hands, but the way we interpret it always depends on us. These philosophers knew that stress does not arise from events, but from interpretations, and that true strength consists in maintaining calm even when the storm rages outside. When you let yourself be dominated by stress, your body feels it. The immune system weakens, the brain gets exhausted, and even the smallest thing becomes an unbearable burden. You notice it in fatigue, lack of concentration, constant irritation. The overloaded mind works like an engine that never turns off. It ends up burning out. The key is to regain control, slow down the speed of your thoughts, and give space for rest. Start with something simple. 5 minutes of conscious breathing a day. Inhale, counting to 4, exhale, counting to 6, and repeat this cycle several times. It may seem like a minimal exercise, but it regulates your nervous system, reduces tension, and restores your clarity. It's like restarting your mind when it's full of open windows. When you feel stress appearing, stop for a moment and write down what thought is causing it. Often you will discover that it is an exaggerated fear, a supposition, or something you cannot control. Change it for a neutral idea that brings you back to calm, like, "This will pass," or "Everything will be fine." This constant practice retrains your mind to respond with serenity instead of anxiety. It is also important to limit exposure to sources that feed your stress. Spending hours on social media, on negative news, or in unnecessary discussions only fills your mind with noise that you cannot process. Learn to take care of your attention as a valuable resource. Every minute you give to external noise is a minute you take away from your growth, your rest, and your purpose. At the end of each day, reflect. Did I manage my stress better today? What made me feel more at peace? That nightly review not only helps you sleep with a light mind, but also strengthens the habit of self-awareness, because stress is not eliminated from life, but you learn to manage it with discipline and daily practice. The result of controlling stress is profound. You recover energy, mental clarity, and emotional strength. You become someone who is not carried away by racing thoughts or useless worries. Your mind becomes an expert pilot who knows when to accelerate and when to brake, when to act and when to rest. That self-management ability is what separates those who break under pressure from those who shine in the midst of it. Remember, you cannot avoid all external difficulties, but you can prevent your mind from becoming your worst enemy. Master your stress, and you will see how your life recovers balance, strength, and direction. Inner peace is not a luxury, it is the basis of a winning mentality. Lesson 14. Cultivate unwavering confidence. Believing in yourself is not arrogance. It is the foundation of a winning mentality. If you don't trust in what you are capable of achieving, doubts and fears will end up sabotaging you just when you need strength the most. A solid mentality is built when you consciously decide that your worth and your potential are greater than criticism, comparisons, or failures. That inner certainty does not arise from anything. It is trained and strengthened day after day until it becomes your engine. Stoicism shows us that true confidence is born from cultivating the mind. Marcus Aurelius affirmed that the power of the soul lies in not depending on the external, but in finding within oneself the strength to face any adversity. Seneca taught that he is not wise who never stumbles, but he who trusts in his ability to get up again and again. Epictetus stressed that no one can decide for you who you are because your worth is determined by the way you choose to live. These philosophers agreed that self-confidence is an act of discipline and clarity, not of arrogance. True confidence begins with visualization. Dedicate a few minutes each day to imagining your success in great detail. Think about your goals achieved, the challenges you will overcome, the way you will face obstacles, and the satisfaction of seeing results. That mental practice programs your mind to act with conviction because what you repeatedly see in your inner self becomes a guide for your external actions. Reinforce that confidence with positive affirmations. Write phrases that strengthen your mind and repeat them regularly until they become part of your identity. Telling yourself, "I am capable of overcoming any challenge," or "my effort takes me further every day," is not a simple word game. It is a way of training your brain to support you when fear or insecurity appears. Ignore irrelevant criticisms that contribute nothing to your growth. There will always be voices that want to discourage you or question your abilities, but those opinions do not define your path. Learn to filter, to keep only what nourishes your vision, and to discard what tries to hold you back. At the same time, surround yourself with people who reinforce your confidence, who push you to grow, and who remind you of what you are capable of achieving. Act now as if you have already achieved the success you seek. This means adopting the habits, discipline, and mentality of someone who already lives at the level you aspire to. If your goal is to be a reference in your area, start behaving as such. Work with discipline, train your mind to resist pressure, and make consistency your way of life. Confidence is not built only in words, it is strengthened in actions that reflect the person you want to be. Every time you face a moment of adversity, remind yourself that your worth does not depend on what goes right or wrong in that instant, but on the confidence you have that you will always find a way to move forward. That resilience is what makes the difference between those who give up and those who continue until they achieve what they seek. The result of cultivating this unwavering confidence is that you will develop a resilient, focused, and powerful mentality. Your actions will be aligned with your vision of success, even in the midst of criticism or failure. You will become someone capable of staying the course without doubting, because within you, you will have already decided that greatness is possible and that you are worthy of achieving it. Remember, there is no more transformative force than truly believing in yourself. That conviction is what turns obstacles into steps and doubts into opportunities to prove your worth. Cultivate that confidence, and your life will align with the greatness you have always carried within. Lesson 15. Connect with yourself. To have a winning mentality in a world full of distractions, noise, and screens that consume your attention, it is easy to forget that true strength does not come from the external, but from what happens inside you. Many times you run away from your own thoughts because they make you uncomfortable, because they confront you with your fears, your insecurities, or those emotions you would rather avoid. However, a winning mentality is not built by hiding what you feel, but by facing it with courage. When you learn to dialogue with yourself and observe your thoughts with clarity, you discover a power that no external opinion can give you. Stoicism taught us that reflection is the path to wisdom and inner peace. Marcus Aurelius wrote daily in his meditations to remember his principles and examine his emotions. Seneca spoke of the importance of dedicating time to silence and introspection as a means to direct life with purpose. Epictetus thought that it is not events that disturb man, but the interpretation he himself makes of them. and that learning to control that internal dialogue is the basis of freedom. They all agreed that true mastery begins when you learn to look inward. Dedicate a few minutes each day to writing down your thoughts and emotions without judging them. It doesn't matter if they're chaotic, repetitive, or uncomfortable. The important thing is to let them out and observe them with sincerity. This exercise acts as a mirror where you can see what is really in your mind, and only what is recognized can be transformed. Keeping what you feel in silence only makes it grow, but when you write it down, you release it and turn it into raw material to work on yourself. Identify a fear or anxious thought and write a practical solution. If you fear failure, write down, "I will prepare better and practice more." If you worry about what others think of you, write, "I will concentrate on what depends on me and let go of what I don't control." In this way, you turn anxiety into a plan, and fear ceases to be a monster that paralyzes and becomes a challenge that you can overcome with concrete actions. Set aside a few minutes a day to meditate or simply reflect in silence. You don't need hours or complex techniques. 5 minutes of calm is enough to disconnect from the external noise and connect with your purpose. That moment of stillness gives you back clarity, because in silence you discover answers that do not appear when your mind is saturated. It is in the pause that you hear the voice of your inner self, and that voice always knows where you should go. At the end of the week, evaluate how this habit of internal connection has impacted your life. Ask yourself, do you feel more clarity, more peace, or more determination? Reflect on whether your actions were more aligned with what you really want, or if you continued to be dragged by inertia. This exercise is not to judge yourself, but to recognize yourself, to learn to listen to your truth and act from it. The result of connecting with yourself is powerful. You begin to live with authenticity, without fear of what others think, because you know that your path is based on your purpose and not on external expectations. You gain emotional clarity because you no longer hide what you feel, but transform it into learning. And above all, you recover the peace that comes from being in coherence with yourself. Remember, no one can guide your life better than you. If you learn to listen to yourself, to reflect, and to cultivate a healthy internal dialogue, you become someone unbreakable, capable of facing anxiety and fear with serenity. Connecting with yourself is the habit that will strengthen your winning mentality, because when you live from your inner truth, nothing can stop you. If you have reached the end of this video, that already speaks of your commitment to change and to your personal growth. Now, I want you to reinforce that commitment by commenting again on this phrase, "Today I train my mind, I am Stoic." Do it with conviction, because every time you write it, you engrave it deeper into your subconscious, and that brings you closer to mastering your life and overcoming your own limits. Congratulate yourself for being here. Celebrate yourself because you are on the right path, and not everyone has the discipline to get to this point. You are part of that small percentage that really decides to transform. So comment on the phrase, leave your like, and subscribe to continue receiving more content that helps you strengthen your mind, your character, and your purpose. You are building your best version, and this is just the beginning.